Welcome back to the Unity Obstacle Course tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create advanced movement capabilities like dashing. To create this dashing logic, it's very simple. We're just going to be opening up our player script, and then we are going to be adding a few different variables to it. So at the beginning, we have just our basic new class members that we have to implement for dashing. These are dash distance, dash time, a check for is dashing, dash direction, dash begin time, dash cooldown, and a check for can dash now. These can dash now and is dashing are Boolean variables that use a different return function to decide whether or not the timing is correct for toggling is dashing and can dash now. And so it's very simple. That is what is going to be happening. Inside our update method, we have our movement, and now we are implementing a dashing logic. So if you remember, the update method is called once per frame. So that means every single frame, we're going to be running through these 3 lines of code. If the key code is down, it's T. And it basically, since it's called every frame, it's called enough to kind of just do this flipping on and off like a light switch, except the light switch has more states than just 2. So that's kind of just a little tidbit into this. So now we have to update our movement method. So the big thing about this movement method is that we're checking if we're currently dashing. So if we're currently dashing, the check is just going to automatically not execute any of this code because it's not that is dashing check is in there. And then we also have our dashing movement our dashing movement logic, and so it's pretty straightforward. But if we are not dashing, we'll check if the space key is pressed. If so, figure out the dash direction by checking which movement keys are held. If no movement key is being held, we don't perform the dash at all. If at least one key is held, we perform the dash. And if we are dashing, we'll simply move along the dash direction using the character controller, just like when we move normally. And so with this, we have basically a good check. So we have is dashing. If we are dashing, we need to move. And we set this is dashing by kind of just saying, okay, this space bar was pressed and we're able to dash because the timing is correct. Then we're going to set our movement direction. And if at least one key is pressed, then we are doing that. And that works because we're basically movement direction .z, 1, and -1. And so it has 4 different states because there are 2 variables with 2 different values. So you can have z equals 1, x equals 1. Z equals 1, x equals -1, z equals 1, or z equals -1, x equals 1, z equals -1, x equals -1. And that just creates our entire quadrant. So we have up, northeast, southwest, and then the intermediary variable or directions too. So basically, and then if it's else if and you want to say that it's time to dash or the dash is ended, then you have this movement velocity equals vector3.lerp, and that just slows you down. And so if we go back to our code and we rerun this, well, we actually need to be saving this first, and then we rerun this, we're able to see that we can now dash. And you're able to kind of work around the obstacles. We got lucky there. And that's just how that works. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As a bonus, I want to talk about maybe implementing Pharah from Overwatch or creating a sprint function. You can do that with this type of logic. So for Pharah, let's see if you can figure it out. Here's some hints. You'd have a jumping, if you press space, you jump, right? So then after that, if you are jumping and you press space again, then guess what happens? You jump, you trigger is flying, and then you would do the same thing with this dash. You'd fly upwards with the flight distance instead of dashing. You just augment the y variable, and that would cause your player model to go up. And then if you're currently flying and you press space again, you're holding space, you increase the jetpack so you can stay flying. And then if you are not holding space, then you're falling. And that's also if you're flying and then you are not holding space, then you go to falling inside that 3rd variable. So you just have 3 different variables, and that's able to kind of work with it. See if you can update or if you can implement any more logic. It's kind of a fun little exercise that you can do. So thanks for tuning in.